Hey everyone, we know how hard it can be to keep up with the latest news in Israel. So if you haven't had the time to stay on top of what's what in the Holy Land, we're here for you. I'm Ladar Gavelazi, and this is ILTV's Weekly Review.
The IDF has entered Jenin for the second time in 2 days to arrest wanted terrorists. The raid ended in an exchange of fire between the IDF and armed Palestinians. And ILTV's William Sharon reports.
The IDF entered Jenin on Wednesday morning to conduct arrests of wanted terrorists when they were met with armed Palestinians who opened fire on them. The armed men belonged to Hamas militant group and used smuggled weapons to fire at the special unit soldiers. Hamas fired back, hitting one of the militants. No IDF soldiers were injured. The IDF entered Jenin to arrest Muhammad Gangina, a former prisoner and arms merchant who was active in the Tanzim militant faction. Gangina was wanted for planning multiple shooting terror attacks in Judea and Samaria and was arrested in his home and transferred to the Shabak officials for investigation. In addition to his arrest, 2 more active Hamas militants operating in southern part of Jenin were arrested, including the terrorist responsible for the Gilboa shooting, who was on the IDF's target for a long period of time.
And with ongoing judicial reform talks, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu offers face-to-face talks after meeting Justice Minister Levin. This as National Unity Party head Benny Gantz dismisses the call as a spin.
יש בינינו הרבה מחלוקות, אבל יש בינינו גם הרבה מן המשותף. לשנינו קוראים בנימין, שנינו נלחמנו בשדה הקרב נגד אויב משותף, והיום רוב העם מצפה מאיתנו שנעשה משהו למען מטרה משותפת. הוא רוצה שנגיע להסכמות. אבל כדי להגיע להסכמות, אנחנו צריכים לעשות דבר אחד פשוט. לשים בצד את כל התנאים המוקדמים, את כל המכשולים, להיכנס לחדר ולדבר.
President Herzog, after his political adversaries to forge a compromise a few days before a critical court hearing, revealed the ongoing discussions with leaders from both the coalition and the opposition in a renewed effort to strike broad agreements. Herzog emphasized, in times of crisis, leadership must seize rare opportunities for agreement. This is one of those moments. Enough is enough, I urge the leaders to act responsibly. This plea precedes a historic event in Israeli judicial system. On September 12th, the Supreme Court is set to convene its full 15-judge bench for the first time. Their mission is to deliberate on an appeal against the recently passed amendment. Gantz, during a speech to his party on Tuesday, confirmed some leaked details of the proposals. He placed the responsibility on Netanyahu to navigate through hardline factions in his coalition that are pushing for an extensive reform. Gantz further stated that only yesterday Netanyahu and the Likud denied and rejected their own proposal, and today Netanyahu is spreading a new spin and calling for talks. Justice Minister Yariv Levin, a key figure behind the judicial reform, dismissed the reports as trial balloons during an interview on Army Radio.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple.
The Israeli Attorney General is facing criticism and praise after asking the Supreme Court to strike down the Reasonableness bill, which effectively limits the judge's ability to overturn laws. Then ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
Israeli Attorney General Gali Baharav Mi'ara asked the Supreme Court on Sunday to strike down the semi-constitutional amendment which aims to limit the judge's ability to overturn laws based on what they consider acceptable. On July 24th, 64 lawmakers in the government coalition voted into law the Reasonableness bill, which serves as an amendment to Basic Law. The judiciary bars reasonableness as a justification for judges to reverse decisions made by the cabinet or by ministers. In her filing to the court, Baharav Mi'ara claimed that she had no choice but to support declaring the legislation null and void. However, while the court scheduled a hearing due to multiple petitions, it has not gone as far as to issue an emergency injunction against the law. The hearing is scheduled for September 12th, 3 days before the start of the Jewish holiday season in Israel, and is set to be the first time in the court's 75-year history that all 15 justices will preside over a case. In response to Baharav Miara's filing, an attorney for Justice Minister Yariv Levin asked that the hearing be delayed to early October, claiming that the Attorney General's response is really a move to bolster and strengthen the petitioners, stressing that Baharav Miara's position is extreme and does not represent the government's view. This is often the case as the Attorney General in Israel is a professional appointee who serves a 6-year term regardless of whether the government changes. Given the multiple changes in government over the last years, Baharav Miara, despite serving as the legal advisor to the government and its representatives in legal proceedings, has often issued opposing legal opinions.
Thomas Friedman issued a plea to President Joe Biden and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, warning against the reportedly approaching normalization deal with Israel, cautioning of dire consequences and the potential of erosion of regional stability.
In a recent op-ed published in the New York Times, columnist Thomas Friedman has issued a plea to both U.S. President Joe Biden and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Friedman warns against rushing into a normalization deal with Israel, warning that such a move could have dire consequences. Friedman begins by urging Washington and Riyadh to not become allies in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's alleged agenda. He emphasizes that normalizing relations with an Israeli government that is saying anything but, quote, normal, could jeopardize stability in the region. The timing of this warning comes amid increased diplomatic efforts to broker a security agreement between the United States and Saudi Arabia, which reportedly includes the possibility of a normalization deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel. In return, Israel would make symbolic gestures toward the Palestinians. Friedman accuses Netanyahu of trying to charm the United States into an agreement that would not only limit the power of Israel's Supreme Court, but also elevate him to a domestic hero status. This deal, Friedman asserts, would only involve superficial concessions to the Palestinians while allowing Israel to continue annexing Judea and Samaria. Perhaps most controversially, Friedman suggests that Netanyahu's government is akin to the extremist hate group the Ku Klux Klan. He warns that the government is actively seeking alliances with far-right European parties with a history of anti-Semitism. Friedman concludes his piece by emphasizing the urgency of halting Netanyahu's government.
And now Israel officially opened its embassy in Bahrain on Monday, 3 years after the signing of the Abraham Accords and the beginning of normalization between the two countries. Let's take a look.
May the Embassy of Israel and the Kingdom of Bahrain serve as a symbol of unity, bridging the gaps between our nations and fostering a future of prosperity for all.
Bahrain's Foreign Minister Abdul Latif Al-Zayani hosted Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen as the two inaugurated the new Israeli embassy in Manama, the capital of Bahrain, on Monday in an official ceremony. The foreign minister put up a mezuzah at the entrance of the embassy and said it marked an exciting moment, which indicates the warming relations between the countries. Indeed, the historic event took place 3 years since the signing of the Abraham Accords and the beginning of normalization between Israel and the kingdom. During the visit, Cohen's first to Bahrain since taking on the role of foreign minister, he spoke with his counterpart on regional security matters and the deepening of relations between the two countries.
His Excellency, my friend, the Foreign Minister, and I agreed that we should work together to increase the number of the direct flights, the tourism, the trade volume, the investment.
During his visit to the kingdom, Cohen also met with Crown Prince of Bahrain, Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa. The opening of the embassy comes as the United States is hoping for a similar normalization deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel. As such, Cohen said that he will continue to act so that Israel will be able to establish mezuzahs in more Israeli embassies around the world.